Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhar Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatarashata Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudev Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatarashata Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatarashata Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatarashata Śrīmad Bhakti Prajñāna Keśava Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatarashata Śrīmad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkishora Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishta Śrī Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Nityalala Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Padadasa Raghunath Sharda Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Swarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachay Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Right, 1 second. Just getting up the Mangala Charan thing. We're going to start doing the Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mangala Charan thing that we were doing before. For now on. Okay. Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Tividito Gaudiya Gaurvanvaye Bhato Bhanuriva Prabhata Gagane Yogora Sankirtanai Maya Varate Mingilo Daragatan Udritya Jivaniman Krishna Prema Sudapti Gahana Sukham Pradat Prabhung Tang Bhaje Vande Bhakti Vinodang Shri Gaura Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radha Rasa Sudhanidhim Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Saccidānanda Namane Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vrishabhanusutan vitavamatanu yamuna tatanagarananda sutam murali kalagita vinodaparang Bhajagodrumakanana kunjavidum Smara Gaura Gadadhara Kelikalam Bhava Gaura Gadadhara Pakshachara Shrinu Gaura Gadadhara Charu Kathang Bhaja Godrumakanana Kunja Vidum Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Devi Tvang Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptashtakamaditaranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Chatamai Mataji, and let's see, all devotees on YouTube and Facebook. I see there are 4 devotees there right now. If you write a comment, I'll know who you are, but I know, I'm guessing Indira Mataji and Raseshwari Mataji are there. And also pranams to all the devotees watching in the future, like Shachi Devi, Jayadev Prabhu, Krishna Vallabha Didi, Ananda Pradayani Didi, Vrinda Didi, Anuradha Mataji, and everybody else. Hari Bol. So, in just, what is it? Today's the 28th. So just in a few days from now, on New Year's Day, we are going to be restarting the Bhaktivinoda Kiti Dhara program. As you've heard me explain before probably, or you might have read my post that I wrote on Vine of Devotion. And so just to set ourselves up for that program, I thought it'd be nice to read about just different glorifications of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so that when we go into his songs, we have some idea of who this personality is. And these glorifications of our acharyas about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they are the kind of thing that we need to read again and again and again and again, because we can't realize, we can only understand it to the degree that they bestow their mercy for us to realize it. It's not something that you can understand with your brain. It's something that you can only understand by their mercy. And so it's a practice. It's not just we read it, we get some knowledge about him and like that. No, it's an actual like sadhan and trying to attain their mercy. And the only sadhan we can do is, we can't actually elevate ourselves at all. We have no power to elevate ourselves spiritually, because the realm that we're approaching is transcendental to anything material. So no effort can bring you there. The only thing that can bring us closer to that realm, to that understanding of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's glories and like that, is if we can receive their mercy, if we can accept the mercy that they're bestowing on us. And so it's only by their mercy that we can be lifted up. And so today we're going to be reading an article by my Param Gurudev Nityalila Pravishya Śrī Śrīmad Bhakti Prajñāna Keśava Gosvāmī Mahārāja. It's been a while since I've read this, but the only thing I can remember from the article is that it is very technical. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult to understand, but we'll go through it slowly and just try to make sure we understand all the points. I didn't read it beforehand, though. Dandavat Pranams, Shripad Bhaktivedanta Sajjan Maharaj. Hari Bol. And I see a couple other people joined. Pranams, everybody. All right. So, this article is Ṭhākura Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda. It's glorification of the exalted Acharya on his disappearance day. Sometimes when I find with these more difficult articles, they start to make more and more sense the more times I read them also. I start to get, yeah. Okay. The inclination to remember Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the mode of separation. The Saccidānanda Vastu, and Vastu mean entity, means substance or entity. So that entity, that is Saccidānanda. The Saccidānanda Vastu is the truly abiding substance composed of pure eternal reality, cognizance, and bliss. If this entity composed of pure eternal reality, cognizance, and bliss remains hidden from our view, from the ordinary people of this plane, we will not be able to conceive of it, and it will be beyond our revelation. Indeed, that which remains beyond our vision, we describe as being in the unmanifest state. But even though unmanifest, it looks like a word is missing here. The Shuddha, whatever, I don't know what it's saying, the Shuddha Bhakta maybe, is the truly abiding substance comprised of pure existence, Sattva Vastu, and is never absent in any way. On Haribo Manini Radha Didi and Champak Mataji. Only when our vision of its absence is itself absent will we perceive the ultimate object of attainment, the Sadhya Vastu, and describe it as eternal and primeval, Nitya and Sanatan. That Saccidānanda Vastu, that entity composed of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, is indeed eternal and primeval, and there is certainly no better revelation of its meaning than Saccidānanda Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Although we constantly have all kinds of discussions about him, on this day, feeling separation from Saccidānanda, we have engaged in remembering some of the especially unique features of his pastimes. Such remembrance is a form of service to his lotus feet. Srila Thakur concealed himself from ordinary vision on the new moon day of Ashad, 35 years ago today. And there's a footnote that says Ashad is the third month of the Bengali calendar and falls between June and July. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappeared on the new moon day, Amavasya, of this month in the year 1914. And actually, every article in this issue, there's this special issue of all of our acharyas' glorifications of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and every one of our acharyas, they are highlighting this point about how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Saccidānanda. Reflecting upon the transcendental Saccidānanda Vastu is only possible through Shabda. We are constantly hearing and discussing the following principles. Aprakrita Vastu nahe prakrita gochar. Veda Puranete e kohe nirantar. It's from Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 9, verse 194. It says, perception of spiritual objects is not within the range of the material sense organs, and contemplating them is beyond the range of the mind. The Vedas and Puranas proclaim this repeatedly. And Krishna Suryasam Maya hoy andakar, Jaha Krishna taha nahi mayar adhikar. That's also Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 31. Is that the same chapter? No. One is chapter 9, this one's chapter 22. Okay. Krishna is like the sun, and Maya is darkness. Wherever Krishna is present, the influence of Maya cannot remain. Although these statements have become embedded in our minds, we have not realized them in our hearts. There is a process, there is a sadhan by which the eternal entity is revealed within the heart. But through the statements just mentioned, we are being warned to first consider carefully the proper methodology of that spiritual practice. One who initiates discussions about Saccidānanda Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur with words or statements made of sound vibrations that have emerged from the material sky is acting in a manner exactly opposite to Srila Thakur's teachings. My consciousness will never be capable of revealing Srila Thakur's identity through language unless my knowledge of this mundane plane, idam gyan, is subdued by knowledge of that transcendental plane, tad gyan. Therefore, although it is beneficial for me to remain silent as long as my knowledge of this mundane plane dominates, Srila Thakur's words, which are full of assurance, are constantly inspiring us to discuss this subject matter. He has made it clear that the divine truth can only be deliberated on through words, shabda. Shabda also means like the transcendental words of shastra, of guru, of transcendental sound. Shabda also means sound, right? So these transcendental words, sound. The nature of the Shabda Tattva referred to by Srila Thakur. In this context, Shabda must not be taken to mean the words that have their origin in the material sky, nor does it mean the words emanating from the lips, teeth, and throats of expert grammarians. Neither the Shabda that the empirical scientists defined as being produced by periodic waves of compressed air, nor the words of men who simply give credence to philosophers based on popularity. This Shabda is absolutely beyond the four faults of the senses. And the four faults of the senses, they are Brahm, that's illusion, are the tendency to come to the wrong conclusion based on appearances. The second one is Pramad, that's the tendency to make errors in general. Vipralipsa is a tendency to deceive, as characterized by baseless denial of something beyond the senses. And the last one is Karanapadav, the insufficiency and limitations of the senses. So these are the four faults of the conditioned soul's senses. The Shabda is absolutely beyond these four faults, though. It is eternal, it is nitya, it is pure, shuddha, absolutely complete, purna. It is liberated, mukta, and immortal. This Shabda. It is the unquestionable source of all knowledge, of all Veda. And it is the perfect message received in the succession of bona fide gurus, Amnaya Vani. For the purpose of emancipating souls who are conditioned by ignorance, the Baddha-jivas, this lineage of the transcendental message, this Vani Parampara, awakens within the core of their hearts, which at that time are supremely pure. They are Vishuddha. In the hearts of those blessed by destiny, this message has awakened and enabled them alone to become factually established in all Siddhanta, the consummate truth. Certainly, the most prominent speciality of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance was manifesting Siddhanta Vani. And there's a footnote here, there's a double meaning. It will be explained that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is the intended meaning of Siddhanta Vani. And we know the word Siddhanta means, Siddha means perfect, or perfected, or perfect. And Anta means the end, or conclusion. So, the perfect conclusion. And Vani is the message of the perfect conclusion. That's Siddhanta Vani. But it can also refer to the message of Srila Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, his words, So, certainly the most prominent speciality of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance was manifesting Siddhanta Vani. Thus, he who is Nadya Prakash, who revealed the birthplace of Mahaprabhu, was also Siddhanta Vani Prakash, he who manifested the embodiment of Siddhanta Vani. So it has a double meaning there. It means it's referring to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who established the perfect, proper conclusion, and who established that message. Or it can refer to who manifested Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Srila Thakur is worshipful because he played the central role in revealing ancient Nadia. Srila Thakur Mahārāja is indeed known as Nadia Prakash, for he revealed the actual birthplace of Nadia Shashi, the moon of Nadia, Srimad Mahaprabhu, where the Supreme Lord enacted his earthly pastimes. Therefore, we lovingly serve Nadia Prakash by establishing and worshipping his deity form. Srila Thakur is present in his eternal deity form in Sevya Sevak Bhav at Swananda Sukara Kunj within Sri Namhatta, the marketplace of the holy name, or the Aprakrit Swarup Ganj. And Sevya Sevak Bhav, that means the object of one's service, or the personality to whom one renders service to, is known as the Sevya. He's the one who is being served. And the servant is known as the Sevak. In this sentence, Sevya Sevak Bhav can be understood in two ways. One, in the mood of a Sevak, Srila Thakur is worshipping Sevya, Sri Bhagavan. Or two, Srila Thakur is accepting our service in the mood of the Sevya and simultaneously serving his worshipful Lord in the mood of a Sevak. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is present in his eternal deity form in the Sevya Sevak Bhav at Swananda Sukra Kunj, and that whole area of Godrum, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he established that as the marketplace of the holy name. He says that is the Namhatta. So situated thus, he is reminding us, Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagavatam bhajante. That's from Madhya, that's in Madhya Lila 24, 1-2. The meaning of that is, even liberated souls accept divine forms so they can participate in the transcendental pastimes of Sri Bhagavan and serve him. Thakur Bhaktivinoda is the progenitor of Siddhanta Vani. The transcendental message, the Vani he manifested, is the very form of the original goddess of transcendent knowledge, Saraswati. That Vani, that message, that transcendental message, is indeed Siddhanta Vani, or Siddhanta Saraswati. By studying the example Srila Thakur set in his own life, as well as by studying the sacred texts written by him and the direct continuation of his transcendental message, his Vani Parampara, we learn that without taking shelter of the immaculate instructions received through the succession of bona fide gurus, or of the irrefutable evidence of Vedic sound vibration, Shabda Praman, we cannot bring delight, we cannot bring vinod to Saccidānanda Bhakti. With this in mind, and with the sole aim of worshipping Srila Ṭhākura for his satisfaction, we exclusively take shelter of Siddhanta Vani, that is, Siddhanta Saraswati, and respectfully offer ourselves to his lotus feet. And that's why in all these Bhaktivinoda Thakur programs that we're doing, we've been reciting the pranam mantra for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada before we recite Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's pranam mantra. Tate Krishna bhaje kore gurur sevan, maya jal chute pai Krishnera charan. It's Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 25. Therefore, the entangled jivas should absorb themselves in Krishna bhajan and simultaneously do Guru Seva. Then only will they be released from the net of Maya and finally attain the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. Characteristics of some of Srila Thakura's relatives and acquaintances. On many occasions, I have heard people say that when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in the Grihastha ashram, they had been his very close relative. They wanted to show that they had been intimate with him and familiar with his identity. Simply hearing this recount, my most venerable Acharya Dev, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Thakur, he would say, they could not even see him, let alone be near him or know his real identity. In Jaiva Dharma, written by Srila Thakur himself, in the 15th chapter entitled Prameya, Jiva Tattva, that's the established proof regarding the living entity, we have learned the significance of such statements and the benefits they give when they ultimately bear fruit. Therein we find the following analysis. It says, both mind and speech have their origin in inert matter, and they cannot be made to touch transcendental objects, despite the greatest endeavor. The Vedas declare, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Speech and mind return unsuccessful in their attempt to reach Brahma. Srila Thakur warned us continuously. It is impossible to obtain knowledge of transcendental objects through gross and subtle senses. Srila Thakur is himself Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda. He is the Saccidānanda form who brings delight to the personification of bhakti. That's the meaning of Bhaktivinoda, who gives delight to bhakti. So what question is there of him having a material covering? It is completely impossible for the gross body with its external senses or the subtle body to approach him or comprehend his identity, and it would defy all logic to claim that they could. He is a noble and exalted personality. He is a Mahapurush who is eternally liberated, who is Nitya Mukta, and beyond mortality, he is Ati Martya. Mortal living beings who are bound by the illusory material energy are completely unable to form any conception about who he is. Realizing Srila Thakur's quality of being beyond mortality. And this is such an essential, this is the essential point to understand, because with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his life, from our material perspective, seems in many ways like just an ordinary conditioned soul. Like if you read his life history and his going through the you know, looking into Christianity and then looking into Brahmoism and, looking at different religions and cultures, and like it seems like there is an evolution of him, coming to have faith in Bhagavan, but before not having that faith. And, like it seems like he had like a similar journey to, although like it's such an extraordinary personality, like not like a regular person, but still like like a conditioned soul going through and like that. If you just read his biography, his Swalakit Jivanamrita, that actually that's caused lots of people to think, oh wow, he's just an ordinary person. And yeah, so that's why this point is so that it's so important to understand. To understand that we don't understand. And I've had some thoughts about that also. Like, why would he perform this pastime of just seeming to have an ordinary life, um, and coming to bhakti, but not having faith, and then gradually developing faith, and like that is my this is just my what came in my head, but that he was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We should continue reading the article. I'm just say this one point and then we'll continue reading. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, before Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, no acharya, I can't think of anybody, no acharya was teaching. They weren't addressing the general masses of people who don't have faith in Bhagavan. Their writings were for those who already have faith. You see, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, he even says, those people who have no faith in my Nitai, I kick them on the head. And, but yeah, they're all written with the intended audience for all the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladevi Jabhush, like all of our acharyas, Rupa Goswami, like all Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, just all of our acharyas, they were all written for people who have faith. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was, we can look at this quote from Srila Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, but his teachings were, he was directly giving these teachings for those who had no faith in Bhagavan, even antagonistic people. He was directing his attention at those people, giving mercy to them, so that by going through this process, looking into Christianity and different religions and like that, then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was gaining, like, in this pastime, he was getting an understanding of how ordinary people, he went through this whole journey so that he can really understand on a deep way, and like empathize, is that the word? Yeah. And like that. And in that way, he was able to distribute Mahaprabhu's conceptions, teachings, like no one had ever done before him. Realizing Srila Thakur's quality of being beyond mortality. Thank you, Manani Radha Didi. The manner in which Srila Thakur has demonstrated how to reflect on Jiva Tattva within the 15th chapter of Jaiva Dharma makes evident his qualities of immortality and omniscience. He has exposed various irrational arguments for rejecting the blissful activities of spiritual life based on fear of the attempt to enjoy transient matter, which appears to be similar. Wait, my mind went somewhere else when I read that. I just need to read that one more time. He has exposed various irrational arguments for rejecting the blissful activities of spiritual life based on fear of the attempts to enjoy transient matter, which appears to be similar. Yes. Because yukta vairagya, right? Like it seems somebody might think that, oh, if I'm accepting these objects of the senses for Krishna's service, well, they're material objects, and then I'll become entangled in, by this material objects. But no, he has informed us that to bring about true divination of an object, total and pervasive knowledge about it, as well as guidance from superior counsel, are necessary. You can't just read a book and understand his glories. We need guidance from superior counsel. In this context, one may put forth the argument of seeing a pearl in an empty oyster shell and mistaking a rope for a snake to establish that the phenomenal world is a total falsity. But these contradict fundamental axioms. From these astonishing insights of Srila Ṭhākura, I am realizing his position as the Atimartya, as the immortal Acharya. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the Acharya. Even within the field of traditional philosophical deliberation, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the Acharya in every sense of the word. By virtue of his literary contributions to the field of philosophy, such as his commentaries on Vedanta Bhashya, Upanishad Bhashya, Sahasranam Bhashya, and Gita Bhashyam, it is easily apprehensible to us that without a doubt, he is situated on the most elevated platform within the community of Acharyas. Formerly, Srila Baladev Vijibhushan obliterated the controversy that sprang from the unfounded charge that Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for lack of a formal commentary, were not authentic adherents of Vedanta. Subsequently, Srila Ṭhākura Bhaktivinoda arose as the most exalted and noble personality to reform the Gaudiya Vaishnava society. And yet, we cannot see the entire manifestation of Srila Ṭhākura's contribution, because many of his treatises are hitherto unpublished. Therefore, it would be an act of great beneficence. Is that how you say that? Beneficence, or whatever, for the entire world.
Beneficence.
Beneficence. Okay, beneficence. Thank you. So therefore, it would be an act of great beneficence upon the entire world for noble-hearted seekers of the truth to endeavor to publish this literature. Yeah, we see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote almost 100 books, or maybe over 100 books. And so we only have some of his books, so there's so many that still haven't been translated. Srila Saccidānanda Thakur's delineation of true benevolence, Parupakar. The false concept that the living entity, that the jiva, is temporarily covered or a reflected form of Bhagavan, and the position that real benevolence means to free the jiva from sat asat vilakshana anirvachaniya and reinstate him as Bhagavan, completely differs from the knowledge we have acquired from this most elevated Acharya's teachings about benevolence. So what does sat asat vilakshana anirvachaniya mean? Let's look at the footnote. It says Mayavadis consider Maya the basis of the material world. Mayavadis consider Maya, which is the basis of the material world, to be neither sat, it's neither real, nor asat, and it's also not unreal. Thus they claim Maya is inexplicable. It's anirvachaniya, inexplicable. Beyond, inexplicable, whatever. Okay. So, the false concept that the living entity is a temporary or covered or reflected form of Bhagavan. So the jiva is Bhagavan, but just temporarily covered or reflected from Bhagavan. And the proposition that real benevolence means to free jiva from this Mayavad conception of sat, asat, vilakshana, anirvachaniya, and reinstate him as Bhagavan, completely differs from the knowledge we have acquired from this most elevated Acharya's teachings about benevolence. The purpose of Srila Thakura's commentaries is to establish the jivas on the platform of absolute truth by fixing their faith in the reality of their eternal devotional existence. The word para, supreme, and paropakar, benevolence, indicates an object's beginningless natural attribute of being the greatest. So the word para upakar, para in Sanskrit means two things. Para means, it can mean others, like parakiya, that's, being in a illicit relationship with another's wife. Para means other. And para upakar means to help or to give assistance to, like that. And so para upakar generally means to help others, or it means benevolence. But here he's giving a deeper meaning, that para means para also means the highest, and so it indicates an object's beginningless natural attribute of being the greatest. Para means greatest also, so it means others and it also means greatest. So here, I guess para upakar can mean to help those, to help others attain their greatest state. That's how I'm understanding it, at least. So actions that seek to nullify the real greatness of the living entity cannot be called benevolent. That entity who is fully saturated by eternal bliss, Nityananda, is truly para, is truly the greatest. And real benevolence to the jiva awards him the fruit of becoming fully established in eternal bliss, Nityananda, eternal bliss. What is the use of accepting the existence of knowledge, of gyan, but denying the existence of the possessor of knowledge, of the gyata? How can such conceptions benefit the conscious soul? The living entity is inherently made of happiness. It's made of ananda, of bliss, happiness. But if he becomes spiritually inactive by negating ultimate reality along with his own existence, who will remain to experience that happiness? And to whom will benevolence be shown? Srila Thakur condemned such so-called benevolence as contemptuous. He did not accept it as benevolence at all, because in relation to their conception of the falseness of commonly experienced reality, the phenomenal world, the vyavaharik mithya vastu, even their concept of true happiness as an experience of oneness with the Absolute, with Brahma, becomes a symbol of falseness and devoid of bliss. However, the actual principle of mistaking a rope to be a snake has nothing to do with the explanation given by the Mayavadis. Because this is a very common example. Mistaking a rope to be a snake. So the Mayavadis say that this material world, it's not, it looks like a snake, but actually it's just a rope. And then so this material world, it seems like it's a, anyways, that's an example that the Mayavadis gave. But snakes and rope are both real. And in order to mistake a rope for a snake, one must have had prior experience of both. Otherwise, what is a snake even? Like, there must be an existence of a snake for there to be a concept of a rope and a snake. In poor light, a person mistakes the rope to be a snake because his mind superimposes his prior impression of a snake onto the rope. Someone who has never actually seen a snake, such as an infant, cannot mistake a rope for a snake. Therefore, it is concluded that there is no possibility of some inexplicable third category like the Mayavadis' Sat Asat Anirvachaniya, which they use to explain Maya. The achievement of temporary fruit is not the goal of benevolence. So I guess this para upakara, this benevolence, is not this impersonal teachings. And now he's going to talk about the achievement of temporary fruit. Let's see. If the result of an action is undoubtedly seen to have a non-permanent nature, then seeking opportunities to engage in it or becoming subservient to it is not in accordance with the explanation of benevolence given by Srila Ṭhākura, nor with any of his teachings. In his analysis of the results of action, he has apprised us that only attainment of the absolute truth bestows the highest limit of ananda in the intrinsic nature and the sarup of the living entity. Indeed, with the desire to attain that highest limit of bliss, the jivas accept the flickering happiness of gross and subtle material nature as the ultimate goal of life, as the prayojan. Such temporariness is never included in the conception of benevolence taught by Srila Ṭhākura. The fruit of this so-called benevolence gradually dwindles until it becomes so weak that it can no longer be detected. It withers away to such an extent that it is at last destroyed, and one sorrowfully realizes that it was completely insignificant. So real benevolence can only truly be that which gives somebody their eternal benefit. Any other kind of benevolence is short-lived. Attainment of prayojan essentially depends on mercy, not on one's own sadhan. The process that leads one to finally obtain the ultimate goal, the prayojan, as conceived by Srila Ṭhākura, successively bestows both the ability to perform sadhan and later the sadhya itself. There's a footnote here. Initially, one obtains the ability to do aradhana, loving worship, in the stage of sadhan, and by mercy. It's by mercy that they obtain the ability to engage in loving worship or in sadhan. And later, mercy alone gives the result of that sadhan, the sadhya or prem bhakti. Here, the attainment of the prayojan completely depends on mercy. Certainly, by definition, the word sadhya means that which can be attained through performing sadhan, and is thus dependent on sadhan. Sadhya means that which can be attained by performing sadhya. Nevertheless, by hearing the teachings of Srila Ṭhākura on the final object of attainment of sadhya vastu from the mouth of Siddhanta Vani, we can understand that the sadhya vastu is in reality beyond the reach of sadhan. Thus, the attainment of the goal of sadhya, attainment of our sadhya, is actually dependent on the mercy of the absolute truth of tattva vastu. Moreover, the imperfections of language are bound to interfere while expressing the definition of the word sadhya. Wow, so the sadhya, the ultimate goal, actually can't be attained by sadhan. It can only be attained by the mercy of the absolute truth. All right, and also I guess we can't even perform sadhan without the mercy of the absolute truth. So, yeah. And there's a footnote here. It says, from the viewpoint of an etymologist, the word sadhya indicates that which can be attained through performing sadhan and is thus dependent on sadhan. But in reality, the attainment of the sadhya is beyond the reach of sadhan. Thus, it is clear that the imperfections of language are interfering with the actual definition of sadhya. What is that verse? Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo namedhaya na bahuna shutena yame vaisha vrinutena labhyas tasaisha atma vrinute tanungsam. It's saying that, Bhagavan cannot be achieved through, and it mentions all these different forms of sadhan. And then it says, by giving, by speaking, by all these different forms of sadhan. But he's only understood by those people whom he chooses to reveal himself to. So, it is concluded that in all respects, sadhya manifests through aradhana, loving worship. It is stated in Vedanta Sutra 3.2.24, Api samradhane pratyakshanumanabhyam. In all respects, it is by the power of subservience to Srimati Radharani. By the power of subservience to Srimati Radharani that the living entities become established on the platform of Vishuddha Sattva, of pure spiritual energy, and thus behold the absolute truth. That absolute truth becomes directly visible before them, pratyaksha, and is the basis and substance of all their thoughts, anuman. That's from Vedanta Sutra. So it's taking aradhana to refer to Srimati Radhika, because she is the origin of that word anyways. So in other words, the absolute truth becomes the object of their cultivation of constant endeavors to serve, anushilan, as well as the object of their constant meditation, dhyan. There's another footnote here. Directly visible, pratyaksha, is parallel to the cultivation of constant endeavors to serve, anushilan. And the basis and substance of all their thoughts, anuman, is parallel to constant meditation, dhyan. Man, the words, the sutras of the Vedanta Sutra are so deep, you need, yeah. Okay, so in the absence of perfect loving worship or pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, the conscious being, due to misuse of his free will, finds himself in the presence of mundane perception and false knowledge. Anushilan of the Absolute Truth is in fact the procedures of devotional service, abhideya. So Anushilan is abhideya. That's what it's saying. From the Vedanta Sutra 3.2.26, it says, Prakashash chakarmanyabhyasat. We can learn the actual conception of Anushilan, that's the cultivation. We can learn the actual conception of Anushilan through those words of Vedanta, which is the cultivation of constant endeavors to serve Bhagavan. This Anushilan is completely different from fruit of work, from karma, or regular studies, abhyas. Rather, this sutra is a mantra that dispels the misconception that merely accumulating knowledge is the means to attain the desired goal. In a practical sense, one cannot attain one's desired fruit simply by gaining proficient knowledge about a particular subject matter. The only means to obtain it is to engage in anushilan, this cultivation, with great earnestness. In the same way, mere knowledge cannot actually bring us within direct proximity of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth will manifest to us only after we properly engage in its anushilan again and again. Therefore, the meaning of prakashascha in this sutra is manifestation of the Absolute Truth. And the meaning of karmanyabhyasat, which means the most general meanings of the word karma include both action and the result or product of action. The literal meaning of abhyas is to concentrate, practice, exercise, or study something repeatedly. So, the meaning of that, karmanyabhyasat, is the result that can be attained by engaging in anushilan again and again. In every sacred text by Srila Ṭhākura Bhaktivinoda, we will discover this truth by deliberating on the chapters in which abhideya, which the spiritual process, is discussed. Srila Ṭhākura appeared in Viranagar. We're almost at the end. Rather than attempting to speak something about Srila Ṭhākura Saccidānanda independently, we should take shelter of Siddhanta Vani. That means the message. We should take shelter of the message of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Only then will we be able to truly know him completely. What Jagadguru Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada has revealed to us in his introduction to Jaiva Dharma is the sole essence of what we should learn about Srila Thakur. There he revealed that the place of appearance of Chaitanya Vastu, that's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Advaita Vastu, that's Sri Advaita Acharya, is also the very place of appearance of Saccidānanda Vastu, Srila Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Because Chaitanya Vastu can mean the conscious entity, and it can also mean the non-dual entity, as the same place as the appearance of the Saccidānanda Vastu. So it's an indirect way of referring to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Advaita Acharya, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Such amazing oneness, saturated with speciality, is always observed in Atma Tattva, in spiritual reality. Furthermore, he manifested his pastime of appearing to the world in the place called Viranagar in Gauradesh. This is fitting, for it is impossible for spiritual reality to manifest anywhere that lacks spiritual strength, bal. And there's a footnote here. The literal meaning of the word vira is strength, and the meaning of nagar is town or city. So it is fitting that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared in the town of strength, because it's only by spiritual reality that he gave meaning to that name Viranagar. Because the real vir is transcendental strength. All dualities converge in perfect harmony within the aprakrit tattva alone. Despite my desire to become purified by discussing many more topics about Srila Thakur, I fear my doing so would make this article too lengthy. I have thus concluded here by briefly mentioning his appearance, even though it is a day of his disappearance. Such a contradiction may seem inconsistent from the ordinary perspective, but considering the third sutra of Srila Thakur's sacred book, Tattva Sutra, it says, Viruddha dharmam tasmin nachitram. The existence of contradicting attributes in the Supreme Absolute Truth is in no way astonishing, for it is entirely natural in him. So according to that sutra from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we come to know that in the aprakrit, in the supramundane Saccidānanda Vastu, the beautiful harmony of all contrary attributes is eternally present. Apart from this, the appearance and disappearance of the Mahajans both serve the same purpose. Therefore, the disappearance day, the day of separation, is also a day of celebration. This Amavasya is indeed a most auspicious tithi, for it has granted the illumination of great auspiciousness. And so the lunar day of the new moon is called Amavasya. It is the last day of the waning moon, and it leaves the night completely dark. Therefore, with respect to mundane considerations, it is an inauspicious tithi, because it's completely dark, there's no moon. But Srila Bhakti Prajñāna Keśava Gosvāmī Mahārāja has concluded by reconciling the apparent contradiction of auspiciousness in inauspiciousness. The event of Srila Thakur's disappearance, although apparently leaving the world in darkness, is a most auspicious celebration due to the special opportunity to remember and glorify him. Thus, this dark tithi, the day of separation from Srila Thakur, has become illuminated by auspiciousness. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Saccidānanda Namane Gaura Shakti Surupaya Rupanuga Varayate. I offer my pranam unto Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the exalted personality who brings delight to Bhakti Devi, Bhaktivinoda, and who is known by the name Saccidānanda because he is the embodiment of pure eternal reality, cognizance, and bliss. He is the personification of Sri Gaura's internal potency, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, and he is the foremost Rupanuga Vaishnav. So this is translated from Sri Gaudiya Patrika, Year 1, Issue 5, 1949. Jai Shri Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai. Oh, wow, that was a very technical article, as I mentioned, as you can see. But yeah, I didn't understand all of that. I understood, I'm not even talking about, I'm just talking about even yeah, it was a very, 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 very technical article, but it really shows us how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is. We can't just glorify him just from words. Read his biography and speak some things of him. That's not actually, we can't. No material understanding, any material understanding of Bhaktivinoda Thakur is no understanding. And yeah. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru, Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai, Jai Shri Param Gurudev Ki Jai, Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Shri Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Shri Swapashad Shri Jai Rupanok Gaurya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Jai Swapashad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopikan Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keśava Krishna Bhakti Pada Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams, Nri Hari Prabhu Bhavatarani Mataji, Manini Radha Didi, Champak Mataji, Shripad Bhaktivedanta Sajan Maharaj, Vidya Lalasa Didi, Indira Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, all the other devotees watching there. You see there are 7 devotees watching on YouTube and Facebook, so pranams to all of you. If you write a comment, I'll see your name. Also pranams to all devotees watching in the future, like Shachi Devi, Jayadev Prabhu, Krishna Vallabha Didi, Ananda Pradayani Didi, Vrinda Didi, Anuradha Mataji, and everybody else. So that's probably the most technical article I know actually in Raise of the Harmonist. But yeah. But you can see this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah, he's beyond our comprehension really. But all we can do is just try, and only by mercy of our acharyas will we be able to understand even anything about him. And so we'll continue to read articles. All the rest of the articles that we'll be reading are not nearly as technical as this one. But yeah, I think it's important that we come back to this every now and then, and maybe every time we'll understand just a little bit more. So, all right. Thank you so much for joining. And tomorrow, I don't know which one I'll read, but we'll see. Maybe we could read Srila Bhakti Rakshak Śrī Gosvāmī Mahārāja's glorification. That one's very nice. They're all really nice, but we'll just see which one. All right, Haribol. Thank you, Manini Radha Didi. Haribol. All right. See you all tomorrow. Jai Srila Saccidānanda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Yeah, and so I think this is setting up a foundation for us for beginning this Bhaktivinoda Kiti Dhara program, so that we can know that these songs, we will be able to approach these songs with some reverence and honor, and understand that that's the main thing, is that we understand is that really we're dependent on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mercy to be able to sing these songs. And if we just sing them like just thinking about the song, that's actually something interesting. I noticed when we were doing when we were doing this Bhaktivinoda Gita program last year, we were singing the song, we were going through all the songs of Sharanagati. And a lot of the songs in Sharanagati don't relate to my life at all. Like, because a lot of them he talks about, he goes through his life, how he had so many kids, and he became a teacher traveling all over the world. He mentioned all these things from his life, and like his old age, and all these different things that actually are very different from my life. But what I was finding in this program is that all the songs were equally applicable to me, whether it related to my life, because it's not about how much does this song relate to me, but this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, that he's showing what is real Sharanagati, and this mood of Sharanagati. That's what the main thing is the mood of Sharanagati. They aren't just some shallow prayer, like, just some prayers that are taken so literally, but it's actually showing the whole entire embodiment of Sharanagati, the mood of Sharanagati. So every single one of his songs, whether the words in it were related to this life or not, didn't actually make a difference. And so singing any songs has the equal amount of power, and it's just dependent on, we're just dependent on him giving us a drop of that mood of Sharanagati, and but it's actually, they aren't prayers that we can actually make. So that's a really important, and so all these articles explaining his glories like this is helping emphasize that point. All right. Is there anything anybody wants to mention before we end the program for today? All right. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.